Hi everyone, this is a screencast that's going to demonstrate how to dissect an argument. So in the previous module, we learned, what the parts of an argument are and how to write our own argument or make an argument ourselves. Now we're going to be reading arguments. So whenever you're reading arguments, you're going to be thinking in terms of what is this author trying to get me to do? Or how is this author trying to push their thoughts on me? And so we use the skill of dissecting out the argument so we can find all of the pieces and have a better understanding of what the author is trying to say to us. So, step one, first things first, you want to make sure whenever we begin dissecting arguments that you're reading an article or a research study or a written piece that could be presented as an argument. Now, this would be any piece that the author is pushing some information on you. The author is giving you an opinion or a thought. They're giving advice or they're, on a particular side, and you can kind of tell which side they're leaning to or not leaning to. So the majority of what you read, especially at the college level, can be classified as arguments. Okay, on the flip side, narratives are more stories, more literary pieces. The wedding speech that you inferred in the last activity, these were narratives. And narratives are analyzed in a different manner. So whenever your English teacher gives you a story and says, what is the deeper meaning of this? You're analyzing that very differently than you would when you dissect an argument. So keep in mind that because this is a critical reading class, the majority of the pieces I give you will be articles that can be read as arguments. But if you're out in the real world or if you're in other courses and somebody gives you a nice story, you might be analyzing it in a different way. So again, just remember, if it's just a story, okay, it is not analyzed in the same way. But like I said, the majority of the things we read in here, you're going to be using your critical reading skills. You're going to read on the analytic level, and you're going to be able to dissect out the argument. Okay, so step two, okay, you want to activate your schema, of course, just like we did in the last activity. Anytime you are given something to read, you want to think, what do I already know about this topic? That helps activate your brain and it gets you ready to infer. It gets you ready to read between the lines because you want to read on the analytic level. The other thing you want to do is you want to think and ask yourself as you begin reading, what is the issue this author is presenting? What is the issue in this piece? And then once you kind of have a sense of the issue, then you begin to think and ask, what is the author's conclusion to this issue? What side is the author pushing in this particular piece? So I have a little practice here. This one is super easy, but it's important to start super easy and then we build on it. That's the best way to learn. So in this piece, it starts with public libraries should not ban certain books. Some books are not considered to be politically correct or are considered offensive and therefore not supported by the public library system here, but their policy is hampering people's access to certain types of literature from a significant public source. So as you're reading this little paragraph, you want to be thinking, what is this author's issue? What are they trying to say to me? What side are they pushing? And this one, like I said, is fairly easy because you can see that this particular author, they gave their issue right at the beginning of the statement. This author is saying public libraries should not ban certain books. That's their issue. And it's pretty easy. It's written as a statement. It's not even asked. They're not saying, should public libraries ban certain books? They're not even giving you the chance to answer the question. Instead, they are just telling you directly they should not. So public libraries should not ban certain books. Now, the conclusion is not your conclusion. I don't want you to even think about your stance on this little paragraph yet. Don't think how you feel. Right now, when you first begin dissecting an argument, you want to think in terms of the author of this piece. So we know that the author believes public libraries should not ban certain books. Now, this basically tells us our conclusion. The author, their side is no, libraries should not ban certain books. Now again, this is the author's conclusion, not yours. You don't get to give your opinion just yet. That comes later. So now that you know the author's issue, you know the author's conclusion, now you begin looking for the author's reasons. So you're taking this, and at this point, you don't have to do much inferring because in this article, it's pretty much written in the literal level that this author says some books are not politically correct or they're considered offensive, their policy is hampering people's access, and so forth. So the parts I highlighted in red, this would be the author's reasons. So the first part of dissecting an argument is very robotic. You're only looking at the print, you're only pulling information from the print. Later, when the pieces get a little bit more difficult, you have to do more inferring, and then even further down the road in our course, you get to start giving your thoughts and opinions on this, and that's when we really dig into the analytic thinking. That's when we really start to analyze terms like politically correct. What does that really mean? And offensive. Something offensive to one person is not offensive to the other. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Right now, we are just learning how to pull out the issue, the author's conclusion, and the author's reasons. That's all we're doing. So remember again, okay, what is the issue this author is presenting and what is the conclusion? So this particular piece does not state the issue right at the very beginning the way the last one did. Okay, so cell phones are becoming a large part of today's society, bringing with them benefits and drawbacks. They are beneficial for those with tight schedules and in case of emergencies. Cell phones can also come in handy for parents to check up on their children. Even though cell phones do carry benefits, the drawbacks are in their inappropriate use. When a cell phone rings or owners talk on them during a lecture or a movie, a major disruption in the concentrations of others is inevitable. Even though there are suggestions in polite society to leave them off in these situations, we need to provide rights of others and penalties associated with abuse of the use of cell phones. Business owners should have the right to ask patrons to turn off their phones without recourse. Teachers should have the right to ask students to put their phones away without eye rolls or bad attitudes. Even strangers on the street should be able to ask a person speaking loudly on their phone to politely quiet their voice or take their phone call to a more appropriate place. So as you're thinking, gosh, what issue does this author have? What issue are they pushing here? In this case, they don't present their actual issue until about 3/4 of the way down. At first, they're kind of giving you a little bit of, polite chit chat, saying, oh, cell phones, have benefits, they have drawbacks, yeah. But then down here is when they really start to push their issue. This is when the author is kind of showing their true colors and letting you know how they really feel about cell phones. They are also saying we need to provide rights of others and penalties associated with the abuse. That's telling you right there, this is where the author stands. So this is the author's issue. Now, You can't write it just like this. That would be incorrect. You have to take what you've read and you're going to have to create an issue written in correct issue format that encompasses this information. So it would look something like this. Okay? Should our society provide rights to citizens to police the cell phone use of others? Yes, according to the authors. So you see that when I found where the author's issue was, I didn't just write verbatim. One, that would be plagiarizing. And two, the issue is never written that obviously. I know in the last little paragraph it was pretty easy and right at the first sentence. I may do that here and there as you're learning this skill. But as your readings get more difficult, keep in mind that you will have to kind of create an issue that encompasses all of the information. So this is where we use our analytic skills. Now, the other thing to just note is conclusion. Because you're reading the argument, this is the author's conclusion. And this helps me to keep it straight. I always write yes according to the author or no according to the author. And this way I don't put in my personal feelings, because when you're first dissecting an argument, you keep your feelings out of this. That comes later. Right now you're just pulling out, how does the author feel? What is the author presenting? Again, like I said before, it's a little robotic at first. So in this case, the author is saying that, people should be able to police the cell phone use of others. And the reasons that they should be able to do this is because they're being inappropriately used, they're disrupting and ruining the activities of others, and, people should have the power to ask others to turn off their phones. And again, all of these reasons were not written directly from the print. A lot of these reasons were summarized and kind of, put together with information that was presented. So when you are looking for the reasons, you also want to kind of summarize to some extent. This might be a new way of reading for some of you. I know in teaching this course, I've actually, taught this course for many years, and this is always the area where many students say, gosh, I've never really read it like this before, but let me tell you, it takes a little bit of practice, but then you become quite a pro at it. And you get really good at pulling out the issue and pulling out the conclusion. And that takes your reading to a whole new level. You begin to read very differently once you learn how to read and dissect out the argument. So the next few activities are some practice sessions. Be patient with yourself, practice, use the incorrect answers you may get to help you understand the correct answers. And also know we use this skill all semester. And by the end of the semester, I promise you will be very, very secure and you'll just feel so confident in being able to read this way. For those of you that have already done this, well, it'll be a little easier for you, but again, practice intellectual humility and know that, what might be easy for you may not be easy for others. So, enjoy the practice, and if you have any questions or if this is something that you want me to go through with you again, please just reach out to me and I'm very happy to help.